Hello, this is your brain on drugs, and this is a punk rock psychiatrist. And that was the song Cafe 405 by the Vandals from their album Hitler Bad, Vandals Good. They're kind of a jokey band. Um, they're really talented, really good. That song is about the mall, like food court restaurant hot dog on a stick. And so, and Cafe 405, I believe, refers to the particular store that they frequented when they were younger. So I thought that song made sense to me because we're talking about barriers to healthy eating today. And I thought I'd have a song about something that's unhealthy, like a hot dog. And so, yeah, we're going to talk about barriers to healthy eating. This is going to round out, this is the last episode in our series on diet. And I've kind of gone through, we went through all the different categories of foods and what's good for you, what's not good for you. We went over the science of how, do we know that this actually helps with mental health? And today I thought we would talk about why people don't do this and what we can do or encourage our patients to do to make these changes, because first you have to know about the change, and then you have to actually make the change, and then of course you have to continue with the change, which is probably the hardest part. People often get motivated, they make a change, and then they fall off the wagon, and they don't, that they stay off of it for a while. And it's the same thing with folks that smoke or drink or whatever. You make the healthy habits, and then you have to be able to stick to them. So we're going to talk about the barriers to healthy eating today. And I thought that, I just mentioned I got a body scan today to kind of see what my percentages were of like my body composition, just so you guys kind of can see that like I practice what I preach. Um, the one reason I'm enjoying this topic we're talking about so much is that like I'm trying to live this myself. And I have a very low body fat percentage just in general. I estimated it about 4 years ago to be approximately maybe 16, 17%, which is considered good, but on like the high end of good. Um, and so I wanted to get myself leaner, and I wanted to start eating healthier. And so I'd say over the last 4 years, and this is the thing, it's a long-term strategy. Over the last 4 years, I have gone through different kind of dietary changes. I've kind of found out, oh, maybe that wasn't as good. Oh, those fake sugars, I thought that they were a good substitute for sugar, but they're not good for my gut microbiota. So maybe I'll limit those now. Or, oh, I thought those energy bars were good for me, even they're low in sugar and high in protein. Oh, they have a bunch of ultra processed crap in them. Maybe I don't want those. So, I went through a series of things where, I cutting out alcohol, cutting out snack chips and things like that. And, starting playing sports, playing hockey and doing weightlifting, and kind of over the time, just working on. So I'd say 4 years ago, 17% body fat. Last year in February, I checked it and it was 11.2, and I got it today, or it was 11.3. Today I checked it 9.2. So my body fat percentage is now down to 9.2, which is pretty low. Pretty like, unless you're a bodybuilder, you're around 5%. So 9.2% is considered very lean. And my BMI is 23. So I'm lean, but I also have muscle mass. So I'm not underweight. So I think that's kind of the goal, is to have strength, have muscle mass, and have your fat. I mean, you certainly don't need to have a body fat percentage down at 9.2 like I do. It's perfectly fine to have one, and this is for men. Women, it's completely different. Women get like 5 to 10% extra on top of what men get. They can be like close to 30 and still be considered a healthy body fat percentage. So women more in the 20 to 30% range, and men more in the 10 to 20% range, I would say would be the ideal, with 10 being like more fit, more lean, and 20 being a little bit more fat, but still kind of in the healthy range. and then women 20 being kind of the healthy, lean, fit look, with 30 being a little bit more weight, but still kind of in the healthy range. So, there's a lot of other factors that kind of weigh in as to far as like where your weight is. I checked my visceral fat as well. Visceral fat is like massive for health, and you want it to be below 100 visceral fat area centimeters squared, and mine was 31, which is pretty exceptionally low, which is great. You want as little visceral fat as possible. Like that's just like the least healthy fat that you have. That's the fat that's in between your organs in your gut. And cutting it, I think a lot of people think that like they're fat, they're fat because they have like fat on the outside of their muscles. But for the most part, that fat is on the inside. I mean, you have it on both. You have it your subcutaneous fat under your skin, but then the visceral fat is that's what makes those people that are really obese. That's where the majority of their fat is. It's inside when we're looking at waist circumference. That's why when we look at waist circumference, we talked about this like many episodes ago. Height doesn't really matter that much. We're looking for under 40 inches. So for over 40 is when we start, that's when we get worried. I'm around 33 inches, and it really, and I'm 6'2", so like your height doesn't really matter so much when we're talking about your waist size. So um you can, even if you are taller, you can still have the same waist size because it has a lot to do with that visceral fat. All right. So just so you guys know that I practice what I preach, and that the stuff I'm telling you works because I adhere to what I'm telling you 90% of the time. I hope, I don't, I'm not like so strict that I don't break my own rules sometimes. And I think it is important to do that. Otherwise, it can be a bit difficult to stick with it. So, that being said, let's talk about the barriers to healthy eating. First, getting started. That's the first barrier. You want to make changes, um, and you don't like you're like you just can't get moving. So the challenge is overcoming the inertia. Like the inertia of what you're doing now and keeping things the same and not making changes and not doing anything, right? Like how do I change my routine? It's difficult, right? Like it's very difficult. I find that one thing that really helps is if you have a major life transition, like you get married or you have kids, or, and sometimes these can make it go in the wrong direction, right? Kids can make healthy living a lot harder because you have a lot less time, right? So you move, you have a new job, you graduate from school and start a job somewhere. Um, you join the military, like you get out of the military, right? So these major life transitions are often like if you've got one of those that's upcoming and happening, that is an excellent opportunity to overcome the inertia. It's a lot easier to make changes to your life when you're in a new house, new city, new life, right? Much easier. Like it's so much easier to abandon those old routines when you make that type of transition. So like if you can, try to time it with that, and that's a great time to do it. Now if that's not in the cards for you, you're going to be where you're at, you've been there for a while, you're staying in the same job, the same place, you're middle aged, you're not having that many changes coming up. Maybe your kids are getting out of the house soon, and that'll be a change, right? There's lots of different changes that you could kind of bounce off of. But if you don't have that, there's other things that we can do. So just make any meaningful change today. Anything, do anything, right? Take a 10-minute walk after dinner. Like, do you have 10 minutes? Um, Take 10-minute walk after dinner, right? Like that could be something. If you can't leave the house because you've got people you got to watch in there, you know, do 10 push-ups. Start with 10. Hopefully you'll be get to the point where you could do a lot more, but like start with something. Do sit-ups, see how many you can do, right? So like do something. Just decide, I'm going to do something today. And whatever you do it, do it every day. Do it every day, or like do it, several times a week. And it's important to establish these routines. So like I go to the gym on Wednesday and Friday every week. Today is Friday. I was at the gym today, right? That's why I was able to do the body scan. Um, I always go to the gym on Wednesday and Friday. And I was a little bit sick on Wednesday, but I work out anyway. Because it's like I kind of feel like if I don't maintain my routine and I come up with an excuse, that will give me a reason to make an excuse in the future. And so it's like these are my days. I always go on these days. And these are the places I eat on these days. And these are the gyms. I go to two different gyms, go to one on Wednesday and one on Friday. And I keep it very consistent. And I do different things at the gym. I kind of think, what do I want to? I have about 15 to 20 different exercises that I do. And I think, which one do I want to do? Which one do I want to do next? What muscles do I want to work on today? That way, I think having some variety also helps. So make any meaningful change and then try to schedule it, right? You don't have to do something every day, but make it, these days of the week that you do it. Um, so that's what I would do. And then the other thing is don't go too fast. Don't dive in too hard too fast. Don't try and, do more. I think people, they get like really excited and then they just go overboard and they burn out, right? Just make some small changes. Just a little bit. Like I said, 10 push-ups, a walk after dinner, 10 minutes. Just get out the door of your house. I mean, just go outside, right? If that's something that you would normally do, just go out there and walk, something like that. Just something as small as that, and then build on it. Make it a little bit more change, and a little bit more change, and a little bit more, and add a little bit more to that, and a little bit more, and a little bit more, until we're to the point where you're reaching your goal. Don't go all in on like day one, week one. You know, you're overexcited. You're like, hey, I'm going to do this. Hey, I think if you're moving to a life change place, that's an opportunity to make like bigger changes. I moved from overseas to the States, and I made that when I said 4 years ago, that's when I moved to the States, and I made a lot of huge changes. And then I moved back overseas 2 years later, and I made even more changes. And so, like, those were both great jumping off points for me to make big changes in my life with different exercise, diet, lifestyle routines. Okay. So, getting started, there's techniques to do it. And like I said, do small stuff, change slowly over time. Don't go too fast. All right. Barrier number two, diet trends. Okay. So, what's the challenge here? Um, there's just so much information out there, right? So people have difficulty keeping up with and discerning good nutritional advice. It's like, should I do this kind of diet or this kind of diet? Or, oh, there's this trend or this supplement or this, blah, 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 blah. These trends, for the most part, are mostly nonsense. It's like another thing. Like if you see something at the store that says low fat or healthy, it probably isn't healthy, and it probably is low fat, but like it's probably not healthy, right? Anything where it's like anything that advertises to you that this is something that is good for you. It's like when Cheerios have that stupid heart on the box. Cheerios are not good for you. Not the ones without honey, the ones with it, nothing. Cereal, like even muesli, which is like unsweetened oats and grains, is not particularly good for you. Now, if you want to sprinkle a little bit of that on top of yogurt, I think that's fine. But like when that's like the bowl of that is your meal and you're eating that every day, probably not the best, right? And so, you look at the yogurts and they'll say, oh, low fat yogurt, but then there's like a ton of sugar and like jam in there and stuff like that. Like I'll see like, like the Chobanis or something, or like the Noosa is, I think pretty delicious. But like, man, look at the calories, look at the sugar and that stuff. Like, and it's like they put yogurt out there and they put cereal out there, and then look at the plain yogurt. Are there any advertisements on there? Are there? No, it's like plain. It's like white bottle. There's like no color. and it just says plain yogurt. And it's like they're not making any health claims. They're not saying like it's a low fat or low calorie or anything. It's like, no, this is just milk. This is just cultured milk. And that is actually good for you, right? So that's, and eggs. Do eggs make, is there any advertisement on like a carton of eggs that like, lowers heart risk? I mean, maybe those ones that say they have extra omega 3s in them or something, but like for the most part, it just says 12 eggs, you know. Does the cabbage in the vegetable section advertise like what vitamin, oh, there's all these vitamins in here, you should buy me, I'm a cabbage? No, there's no ad. It's like 60 cents a pound, cabbage, green, and then that's it, right? Like the food that's actually good for you, no one is advertising that it's good for you. There are no ads on there. So anytime you see that, beware. Beware anything that says it's good for you. High in protein. Anything where it's like making some sort of claim where it's trying to make it sound like a good thing is probably not a good thing. Like, so that this is advertising. Why does cabbage not advertise itself? Which is, this is one of the healthiest vegetables you can have. Like, cabbage is incredible, and there's so much you can do with it. And it's like it makes no claims, right? So anyone making claims and like all this stuff where they're putting extra protein and everything, please stay away from this. This is not good for you. Um, that's just a sign that it's ultra processed. So people have this challenge. It's difficult to keep up with and discern good nutritional advice, right? And they've got advices often coming from untrustworthy sources that are not backed by scientific evidence, and they're driven by profit, right? These are companies that are trying to make money. There is no big cabbage. There is no big beets. There is no beet industry out there. Like, do you see commercials on TV where they're talking about beets and like how you should eat more beets? No, they. Why not? I have no idea. But like for whatever reason, the stuff that's actually good for you doesn't try to convince you that it's good for you. Um, they're they don't have the time and the money to spend on these campaigns, because their profit margins are so low. If somebody has all this extra time and money and advertising departments and stuff, and they're making fancy packages and putting advertisements on TV and stuff, they they're making more profit. Like this is a profit driven industry, and they're just trying to convince you of something. And then anytime you see any kind of scientific claim on any kind of food product, it's probably BS. Like, because they just don't test that stuff. And it's like they can say, and the thing is, they can say whatever the heck they want. Um, they can say anything they want, and it doesn't even have to be backed up with science. And for whatever reason, we allow that in the United States, and I think it's insane. So anything that's making claims is probably not great, right? Anything that's like put in a package that has a nutrition label on it where they actually have to tell you what's in it. If they have a label in there and they have to tell, it's not like you go to the frozen chicken and it says ingredients chicken. No, there's no requirement to say there's chicken in there. You don't have to say what's in there. It's obvious. It's in the name of the product, right? You don't have a label on asparagus that says ingredients asparagus, but you could have like some sort of like TB dinner that has asparagus in it, and it will list asparagus in the ingredient list amongst a ton of other stuff. So ingredient lists on a package are usually a bad sign. And the more things on there, the bigger the bad sign. Um, and so then we've got scientific evidence for what is healthy can appear to change frequently. This is another challenge, right? So like, oh, this is good for you. Oh, it's not good. Eggs are good. They're not good. Eggs are good. Okay. Eggs are good, but like people get confused. It's flipping back. Oh, milk is good for me. No, it's not good for me. It's like, it also depends. Like some people are lactose intolerant. They probably shouldn't have, that doesn't mean you can't have any kind of milk product. Just because you're lactose intolerant doesn't mean that like every milk product has lactose in it. A lot of fermented milk products are very low in lactose and can be tolerated. Straight milk, probably not. But like, that's another thing. Like, milk may not be the best thing to have, but like yogurt and cheese could be. Like some cheese, most cheese is very low in lactose, and some cheese is lower than others. So it kind of depends on the person as well. And so like you get this conflicting scientific evidence, and then you've got the food industry out there trying to malign the healthy food and like make it sound like you should have their food, which they're profiting from, and this and they're spouting BS scientific evidence, and like so this confuses people, right? So these and then there's all these dietary trends of, oh, eat more, this we're in the protein trend now, right? Everything has to have more protein in it. You heard my protein episode. I talked all about this. It's like if you got the amount of protein that they're telling you to get, then you'd be consuming half your calories in protein, and you should not be consuming 50% of your calories as protein, because one, that's not a healthy ratio, and two, you're not going to consume 50% of your calories in protein. It's going to be less, which means you're going to end up consuming a lot more calories, and you're going to gain weight, right? So these dietary trends, they're confusing. So what's our strategy against this, right? Keep nutritional advice simple. Concentrate on food groups, not individual foods. Say, don't say, oh, list the thousands of foods that maybe they should have or shouldn't have, and just say, oh, you should eat things that are not processed, things with these certain labels, things like that. Keep things simple. And just say, eat less processed food and sugar, right? That would be another one. And then the whole Michael Pollan thing: eat real foods, not too much, mostly plants, right? That's like the simplest, best advice possible, right? Eat real foods. That just means like foods in their whole form, whether it's meats, fish, grains, or vegetables, fruits, whatever, and or prepare, and then you can use those to prepare what you're going to prepare. Not too much, so eat not that much of the don't eat as much as maybe you want to, and then mostly plants. He's not even saying be vegan or be vegetarian. He's just saying, and this is how I try to do the plant-based diet. Like I do eat meat. I had meat today. One of my favorite places. I had a Nepalese restaurant. Nepal's food. It's almost all vegetables, but there's one of the dishes is some chicken curry, and I'm not gonna, I'll eat that. That's good protein. I'm going to the gym today. I'll have the chicken curry, but like 90% of the food is vegetables, so mostly plants, right? If you want to go all plants, it's perfectly fine as well. So that's how I would combat these dietary trends. Just keep it simple. You know, eat real foods, not too much, mostly plants. That's all you really have to say, right? Like, of course, people need to know what that means. What are real foods, etc. How do I prepare meals that are this way? What should I, what kind of foods can I eat that would meet this criteria? They may not know. You may have to give them like some examples and things like that. But like, keep the advice as simple as possible would be how to fight that one. Our next barrier would be cost. Okay, so people thinking, oh my gosh, it's going to cost a fortune to eat well. I can't afford to do it. Um, and a lot of healthy foods are expensive. Organic foods are more expensive. Cage-free eggs, grass-fed beef, like just shopping at a grocery store like Whole Foods, right? Like everything in there is expensive, right? I mean, here's the thing. To me, I do like me some Whole Foods. I'm not gonna lie. Um, it's always been a dream of mine to have enough money to where I could basically like do all. I mean, where I live now, there is no Whole Foods because I'm not in the U.S. But when I'm in the U.S., my goal would be to shop exclusively at a store like that. It doesn't have to be Whole Foods itself. I'm from Texas. I'm a Central Market fan. Um, but Whole Foods also from Texas as well. So, Texas is not a very healthy state, but we came up with some of the healthiest grocery stores. Um, my goal would be to like, have enough money to where I could do all my shopping at those stores and eat exclusively that food. Because I mean, it's not just good for me, it's tasty, right? It's like I love that kind of food, like really healthy food. Going to a farmer's market, like here in Japan where I live, the farmer's market is like dirt cheap. which is like the opposite of a farmer's market in the States, where like the food costs way more. And it's like I'm shopping at the farmer's market here and paying way lower prices than I am at the grocery store. And it's local and it's fresh and it's great. Unfortunately, in the States, when you go to a farmer's market, you're paying a premium. And I've been to New Zealand to farmers markets, very expensive, but it's great food. If you can afford to shop at a farmer's market and a Whole Foods and stuff like that, great. But to me, that's a luxury, right? That's a luxury that most people don't have. I don't even shop there exclusively. I would love to, um, but I get some items there, but the bulk of my food comes from when I lived in the States, Walmart, to be honest with you. I mostly shopped at Walmart because it was about the cheapest store for me to shop at. And I can get perfectly good, healthy food at Walmart. And that's what I did. Okay. So while a lot of the healthy foods are very expensive, there are a lot of healthy foods that are not expensive. And so I think this is like a myth that like people like to throw out there and be like, "Oh, I can't do that." It's like an excuse. Or it's like the industry is trying to trick you and be like, "Oh, you can't eat healthy. You don't have enough money. You need to eat our garbage." Right? No, there's lots of healthy foods that are um just as affordable, if not more affordable, than the unhealthy foods. Okay. Like I know food prices have gone up a lot recently, but like when you compare like the stuff that's good for you to the stuff that's not, um, oftentimes you're going to find the healthy stuff to be actually cheaper. Okay. So a lot of these processed foods are expensive. Like go down the cereal aisle. Stuff is like $6, $7 a box now. Like I remember when it was like $2 or $3, right? It used to be cheap, not anymore. A lot of this processed food has gotten really expensive. Like go down the chips aisle. Like I'll look at like Doritos and it'll say like, 6.99 and then it's on sale for like four something. I'm like, I remember when this was $2. So like a lot of this junk has become very expensive. And these are foods that provide little nutrition, they're not filling, they're mostly just calories, and essentially they're not doing anything for you. Like they're not providing you nutrition, they're not giving you any sustenance. And if you get rid of them, you're saving money that you can use to buy healthy food. All right. So getting rid of a lot of this processed food is going to save you money, like crackers and chips and like cereals and things like that. Like it's shocking, like how expensive that stuff has actually become. All right. And another place you can save money, like I was just looking into this, like I heard that like the wellness industry is larger than the big pharma industry. And it's true. It's like four times the size. But I'm like, there's no way, right? Like, how is this the case, right? Supplements make up like 9 to 10% of the entire, like, if you group pharmaceuticals and supplements together into one category, supplements are 10%, and insurance isn't helping you pay for that. You don't need all these supplements, okay? You don't need them. Like, it's mostly just like a lot of this stuff you're just going to pee out. You're not even going to use it. Like you're going to get this from real food anyway. Why are you buying the supplements? And if you're tight on money, spending your money on supplements is not a wise use of your money. So like you don't need supplements. You don't. There's little evidence that they're helpful. Like I have talked about vitamin D, zinc, magnesium. I think there's some out there that have some evidence. Now, if you just ate healthy food and did not have those, you don't need to buy those as well. So the supplements that they can get very expensive, and there's limited efficacy, and there's limited scientific evidence to prove that they work. And then just like the whole wellness industry, I was like, how could this thing cost this much? How could it cost more than like our it's like it doesn't cost more than our whole healthcare system, but it costs more than our pharmaceutical industry. And it's just like going to alternative medicine folks, or you know doing like meditation, yoga, and like I think a lot of this stuff is good, right? But like it's expensive. And if you focus on spending your money on healthy food, and like which is probably way more bang for your buck than this other stuff, you can save money, and then you'll have more money to spend on healthy stuff, right? Many vegetables, fruits, and whole grains are really affordable. All right. Just go down the aisle. Like, these foods are nutrient dense, they're more filling. I'm talking about like any kind of dried legumes, peas, beans, lentils, like all that. That stuff is so affordable. More than it used to be, but still, it used to be like $1 for a pound of that stuff. And now sometimes it can be upwards of $2. um, I'll go to like specialty stores, like these like hoity-toity like gourmet stores, or even like beyond Whole Foods. I forget what this other one's called, but like they cost a fortune there. And I'm like, you can find this in like ethnic markets and like even like Walmart, and it's like way cheaper. um yeah, dried beans and things, super affordable. Frozen vegetables, like sometimes like vegetables themselves can be a little bit more expensive, but like if you get the frozen versions, and sometimes you need the fresh versions because you need like to eat them fresh, but if you're going to cook them, for the most part the frozen ones are going to work just as well. And often those frozen vegetables have more nutrients in them. Same with fruit. When I do my smoothies, use, like blueberries are really expensive, but a bag of frozen blueberries is like way cheaper than it would be fresh, and they're available year round. A lot of canned vegetables, like tomatoes, for example. Tomatoes can be kind of expensive, but like canned tomatoes are relatively cheap, like $1 to $2 for one of those big 28-ounce cans. So there's a lot of fruits and vegetables and beans and things that are really affordable and really good for you. And then like just fresh fruits and vegetables, especially if they're in season, like they're very affordable comparatively. And so, and they're filling. You won't need to eat as much. That's another thing. And then, I talked about the Smiles trial, that big trial that showed like decreasing the amount of ultra processed foods and increasing the amount of healthy foods improved mood, and like the effect size was like ridiculously high. It was like number needed to treat of 4, which is like way better than any medicine that we could come up with. So I didn't mention this back when I was talking about the Smiles trial before, but they actually did like an analysis of like cost, and they showed that people actually saved money by incorporating food categories rather than adhering to strict diets. So like these suggestions that they made that led to people eating healthier foods and improved moods, they actually ended up spending less money on food. So this whole like cost thing, this is a myth. Like if you're not smart about it and you're like, "Oh, I have to buy organic and cage free, and I have to go to Whole Foods and things, so buy my things there and I just can't afford it." You know, well, you don't have to do that. If you can and you enjoy it and you have the money, luxury item, I think it's perfectly fine. I like to do it myself, but you can definitely get cheap food that is super good for you, that does not cost as much as bad food. All right. Next barrier, time, right? This is the other one. So, most of us have a lifestyle which does not make room for exercise, good sleep, and healthy diet. That's one of the biggest problems when we talk about like the lifestyle stuff, is people just say, I just don't have enough time. Like, I don't have time to get, 6 to 8 hours a night. Or really, it should be 7 to 9, 7 to 9 hours of sleep. I don't have time to exercise or go to the gym. I don't have time to prepare healthy meals. Okay, so this is probably, I think, one of the most legit ones we have. I think the cost one, I think that's a myth that we can easily bust through cost. Diet trends, that's just people are getting confused by false information, and we can provide the correct information. And then getting started, that's just about making small changes. But like when we're talking about time, this is, to me, this is one of the biggest barriers. Okay, people just don't have time. So we have to come up with a strategy to use the time we have more effectively and efficiently. All right. So first, make a healthy lifestyle your priority. This should be like after like taking care of, earning money and taking care of your kids, right? And like providing bare necessities. Healthy lifestyle should be like the next priority, right? Like let's get the basic stuff out there that we absolutely have to do, and then make healthy lifestyle like your next highest priority. Because a lot of people they're not doing that, right? They're doing other stuff. So the other things have priority. This can be a priority, and then you can make time for it. Now, I know not everyone has this luxury. Some people have to work, 2, 3 jobs. Some people have, like really challenging childcare issues or taking care of parents. Like it's really, really challenging. And it's going to be tougher for them to to overcome this barrier than other folks, but it can be done. So, first, make healthy lifestyle a priority. Just say, this is a priority. This is something that's important to me. This is something I want to do, right? Like, now how are we going to do it? Now I've said that I want it. I've said this is like super important to me, and I want to actually do something about it. Okay. So some things you can do: prepare quick meals that save a trip to the fast food joint, right? So driving to get food or pick up a pizza or something. I know everyone's doing like the DoorDash stuff and stuff like that now because now they don't have to leave the house. But this is another thing. Do you know how much money you're spending having someone deliver your food? Like, you don't have the money for this. Like, you're paying double to have somebody. I remember I delivered pizza in high school, and like they people didn't pay anything to have the pizza delivered. Like, they didn't pay any extra. They paid the same price for the pizza as if they had picked it up the store, and they could give me a tip or not. And sometimes they didn't. And so, like, but now, like with all these apps and things, like to me, this just seems like the biggest con job. Is like, oh, someone's going to drive to McDonald's, pick my stuff up, and then I'm going to pay like double the price of the meal because I don't want to take 15 minutes to drive down there and get it and come back, right? Like, this is another place you could save money. And then you end up spending a fortune. Also, McDonald's, like, it's like $10, $12. When I was in Alaska, it was $12 for a Big Mac meal. And it's like close to 10 almost everywhere else in the States. Alaska is a bit expensive, but like here in Japan, it's like 5 or 6. So don't be jealous. But like, you shouldn't be going to McDonald's. But I'm just kind of, as an example, like, I mean, you're paying $10 to $12 per person. You can definitely prepare food cheaper than that, right? So this is another one of those cost miss. Like, they used to have a dollar menu at McDonald's. Like, I used to eat for $2. I get $2 menu items, and that was my meal. Like, that was affordable. That was cheaper than what I could make. But um, that's not the case anymore. Now it costs like a fortune to eat at fast food places. And so there's another hit for the cost barrier. But like, for the time, it's like, do you really want to waste all this money having someone deliver your stuff? And then if you're going to pick it up yourself, like, it does take time to do that. You could spend that time preparing your meal. Like yesterday, I was like, I go out to lunch every day, healthy places. Um, but it's like, it's the holiday times. It was New Year's. It's like, what's going to be open? And I was like, could I just like throw something together for lunch? And it actually takes less time than driving to go get something and eat it and come back. Like, when the places I really want to eat are all closed, I'm gonna have to eat somewhere that's like less healthy because those are the only places that are open on the holidays. And I was like, maybe I should just like go in the refrigerator and see what I could throw together. I didn't do that, by the way. I did go out and get fast food because it's my hobby, or not my habit. I always eat lunch out. Um, so anyway, um, yeah. So you could save some time by not like going to pick this stuff up. And in the quick meals, right? There are things that you can throw together pretty fast that are like relatively healthy for you. And it's like, if you want to know some examples, search the internet. What are some quick meals that I can prepare, really quickly? I'm not a Rachel Ray fan. Personally, I feel like she ruined the Food Network, but she used to have like, because I think she took real cooking off of there, and like I don't really like her quick meal stuff, but like I think it's a good idea. Like, was it like under 20-minute meals or something, and she prepares stuff like really quickly, and it was like pretty decent stuff. I wouldn't say the food was bad. I liked watching the Food Network for the professional chefs and to learn the really great techniques. And I feel like that got replaced by this like more homemaker type of cuisine, and that's not really what I was into learning how to make. That aside, get off that soapbox. You can do that type of stuff, right? Like, there are 30-minute meals or whatever that you can prepare. There are quick things that you can throw together that are healthy. So I'm kind of weird. I eat something different almost every day. I don't have a lot of repeat meals in my year. I will usually eat food for a week. This week it is turkey piquant. It's a Cajun dish. Usually it's chicken piquant, but I had leftover turkey from Thanksgiving, and so I made turkey piquant, and it lasts me like a week. It's like a stew because, and this would be our next point: prepare larger servings that can be used as prep for subsequent days, right? So, like, I make a giant pot of turkey piquant. I made turkey gumbo the week before, and that's all I eat for a week for dinner. And it takes me a few hours to prepare it on a Sunday or one day of the week, and then I'm just heating it up the rest of the day, the rest of the week. And so make larger amounts that then they don't take you that long to prepare them on subsequent days. And the thing is, I like to change. This is the way I eat. Other people, they'll eat like the same thing on like Tuesday every week. It's like the Taco Tuesdays or whatever. I like to go a week of one food and then a week of another food and then a week of another food. And I may not repeat what I eat for. I haven't made pecan in probably 5 years, right? I make gumbo once a year. Um, I make turkey once a year. Like I make pasta probably 2, 3 times a year. I make pizza probably 2 times a year. Like I make burgers once a year. Um, for an Australian holiday, I make this Australian burger. But like this is how I do it. Like I'm always changing. I like to have a lot of variety, but most people they just repeat. And so like and when you don't have time, the repeat strategy is going to work better. So make something that's going to last a week. And if you have a big family, it might be hard to make something that large. Make a giant make a giant pot of pasta sauce, right? A giant pot of pasta sauce, and then it's just prepared. You put it in the refrigerator, and then every day you boil some pasta and then pour the sauce over, heat it up, boom, fast, right? These quick meals, these larger servings that last you for longer periods of time. And then, so do pasta for a week, a big pot of pasta for a week, and then do something else for a week, and do all the prep work one day with that you have time that you set apart to have time for that. And then you can quickly put it together the rest of the week. So this is saving you time. It's also saving you money, right? Another great one would be like some rice and bean dishes, right? Something like that. Like, um, I like Latin American food, so like something like a Costa Rican gallo pinto or a Cuban moros y cristianos, right? Something like that, right? These rice and bean dishes where like you soak the beans overnight and then put some seasonings stuff like that and you just boil them. Takes like 3 hours the next day, but it's not like you have to sit there and babysit it. It just cooks, and then you prepare some rice and then you mix them together. And like there's vegetables. I'm going to saute some vegetables. I'm going to mix those vegetables with the beans. I'm going to cook that liquid down. I'm going to cook the rice separately. I'm going to mix them together. And then boom, I put that in a big pot. And then every day I take a big scoop of my beans and rice, put it on a plate, heat it up, and boom, my meal's ready for the next day. There's so many dishes like that you can make large portions of it. And like I think people complain about leftovers. Like rice and beans is going to taste exactly the same the second day as it did the first day. This turkey pecan, it's a stew. It tastes exactly the same every day. It's not a leftover. I made this for a week. It's so it's just fast and easy, right? Like you don't want to make something like a sandwich and have leftovers of that, or like something like fried chicken and have leftovers of that, right? That's not going to be as good the second day. Make foods that taste the same every day. And so like you can like do internet searches. These are a couple examples. These are some things that I do. And just say, what are some quick meals? What are some things I can make in larger servings that will keep for a week? Do that, right? So this isn't these are some time savers. Watch old episodes of Rachel Ray. I never thought I would make that recommendation. I would never do it myself, but To each his own. And if you need to do something like that, do it. Um, Here's another thing: cut back on other stuff that's wasting your time. Screen time, right? Cut back on screen time. People take so much time on their screens. Or how about this? Use your screen time while you're cooking or while you're gardening, right? So having a garden, good hobby, good exercise, right? We're combining food with exercise, with getting outside, all these lifestyle things in one thing. And then hey, get your screen time while you're in the garden. Listen to a podcast, listen to a book or whatever. Like, do your screen time. You don't have to be watching a video or something like that. Listen to something while you're in the garden. Listen to something while you're cooking. Have this, turn the TV around to where you can watch it, or your iPad or whatever the heck you use, right? Like watch the football game or whatever it is while you're preparing your rice and beans. You see, like you can do that. You can still have that screen time while you're doing something else. Another thing would be to make cooking an activity to do with your partner, your spouse, your family members, your friends, right? Like make this a thing that you do together, right? So like so you're spending time with family at the same time that you're cooking, right? So you can do both. Um so there's just all these time saving things. So like I think time is the hard I think this is the hardest one to get over, but it's definitely doable. All right. Definitely. And I think the more time crunch that you're under, the harder it's going to be. And there may be times in your life where you're just going to have to sacrifice, this or whatever else it is, you know, but try to get back on track once that gets better. All right. So our next barrier would be new foods. This is something that's more pertinent for children, but also for adults. A lot of the foods that I've suggest eating are maybe things that you don't want to eat or that kids don't want to eat, right? Adding new foods can be a challenge. Um, People are not used to it, but there are some strategies to get these healthy foods. And I'm going to talk mostly about for kids here, but also you can use this for yourself as an adult. Introduce new foods to meals you already make. That's the easiest way to do it. All right. So turn canned salmon into burgers, right? So you're already making burgers, but instead of using beef, use salmon. So make like use the canned salmon, also time saver, right? Healthy omega 3s. Make a burger from that, right? So take some healthy food and make something you're already making with the healthy food. Add kale to macaroni and cheese. I'm not a macaroni and cheese fan. I know everyone loves macaroni and cheese. I've actually never liked it my entire life. I think it's soft. It's too soft and too homogenous. It's just to me, it's just mush. I don't like it. But people do like macaroni and cheese. Put some kale in there, right? Things like that. Like, and I've heard that like you can add kale to macaroni and cheese. I don't eat macaroni and cheese, so I can't attest to this, but somebody gave this advice and I wrote it down that their kids really liked kale added to macaroni and cheese. Um, Substitute a whole grain for foods that are, not whole grains, right? So take something like you've got white rice, replace it with brown rice. Or, you've got regular pasta, replace it with whole grain pasta or lentil pasta. Or, don't do a one for one swap. Do like a 50% whole grain, 50% processed grain, right? Or, maybe start with 10%, go up to 20, 30, 40, and slowly convert yourself over to the healthier one. Add more vegetables to a pasta sauce. So it's like pasta sauce should not just be tomato. Like you can easily put onions, garlic, peppers, um, squash, zucchini, mushrooms, eggplant, greens. You can put greens in anything. It's like I made that gumbo. There's a type of gumbo called gumbo zerbs, um, and it's like I don't know why it's what the Z is. I'm not Cajun, but like Zerbs is like with herbs. And it's like a gumbo where there's a lot of greens in there. And that could be like collard greens, turnip greens, whatever you want, right? And so like here where I am, we have this stuff called Malabar spinach, and I put that in everything because it's like the cheapest green I can get at the local store. Um, and just take whatever that green is and chop it up. Green shrinks so much, just chop and then throw them in the pasta sauce, right? All these vegetables that you can put in pasta sauce, and then you've just added all these different nutrients to that. So like do things like that where you've got stews and sauces, just add mushrooms, vegetables, whatever, and get more of that in there, right? If you've got a sandwich, put more leafy greens in there, right? Finely chopped, a finely chopped cabbage, or like pickles or sauerkraut, or just like kale can be a bit much for people. I would slowly introduce it, but like you could saute some kale to make it softer. The finer you chop something, like really finely chopped cabbage or kale, can be a little bit easier to stomach. Um, Put that in there. Spinach. I mean, I've always loved spinach, fresh spinach. So like, put some spinach in there. Maybe if you're not a huge fan, mix it with some lettuce. Um, just put more greens in there, and then substitute healthier condiments for unhealthier ones. So like, take out your tartar sauces, your mayonnaises, your ketchups, and put salsas and um, mustard and things like that, right? And then make your snacks healthier, right? So nuts, salsa, fruit, smoothies, kefir, things like that. We've talked about all those items. All right. And then these last barriers are ones that like you really don't have any control over, but they're just barriers to our system. So food served in institutions like schools, hospitals, military dining halls, chow halls, senior facilities often promote obesity. Now, they usually have healthy options, but the healthy options they have in there are not very good. And so people don't pick them. It's like if I go to a cafeteria, am I going to eat the vegetables? No, because it's like the green beans that are like almost that dark green color, which green beans should never be cooked to the point where they're like that olive green gross color. That those are overcooked. Spinach, it looks like a paste, overcooked, and that's a problem. So it's like, oh, that's healthy, but it's gross, and so people don't want it. And then they're like, oh, I'll eat the burger or the fried chicken because it's like, even if it's not great, it's the tastiest thing here. So that's a problem, right? So if you're in an environment where you're getting your food from those places and they don't have tasty, healthy options, that can be a problem. Federal subsidies for commodity crops like soy and corn, um, that can be a problem. So like we get a lot of soy is like a good thing, but like all this soybean oil that gets added to things, or like it gets put into animal feed, or the highly processed grains with corn and things that get put into food and like highly processed and turns into crackers and things like that. The government is actually paying them to grow this stuff so that they can afford to grow more of it, and sell it for cheap because the government's giving them money, rather than the government funding like healthy vegetables, right? So write your congressman. There's not much we can do about it. Nutritional education of health professionals is substandard to non-existent. You'll hear this fact out there, like in medical school you get maybe 1 to 2 hours on nutrition the entire 4 years you're there. Some med schools get none, right? So like all the stuff I've been telling you, like I didn't learn any of this in med school. They just don't teach it, right? And we often say eat better, but like, do even doctors know what that means? Right? They're not getting that information. I think we should have an entire course on nutrition. Like the courses are not long in med school. My courses were usually like 6 to 8 weeks in length. And I mean, I think there would be nothing like lost if we had like a 6 to 8 week course in nutrition embedded into our curriculum. All right. And then the food industry designs foods to be addictive so people eat more. And the food industry makes a lot of money because people eat this addicted foods. So that's another thing. Like if you're going to eat these foods that the food industry's like this like frankenfood they're making, you're not going to be full. You're going to gain more weight. You're going to get more hungry, and you're going to eat more of it. Like I often like over the last year, I mentioned at the beginning of the episode that my body fat percentage has dropped by 2%. And a 2% drop for me is my total weight of fat in my body dropped by 20 to 25%. I went from 21 pounds of fat to 16 pounds of fat. That's like virtually a 25% drop in my total fat. And it's just like I'm not hungry. Like I have to remind myself to eat. I'm not like it's not like when I eat I feel like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so full I can't eat." It's just like I don't have that hunger signal. I just like I could go without lunch easily. I could go without dinner easily, but I eat it because I know I need to get enough nutrition in me to run my body, and I won't otherwise. And I think when you eat healthy, it's like the GLP-1, like I almost feel like I'm on a GLP-1. Like my routine makes me not have as much of an appetite. And when you eat the unhealthy stuff, it's like the opposite effect. You get hungrier. And it's like we don't really need the GLP-1 if we just eat food that doesn't cause that hunger signal in the first place. Now, if you're already, very obese, you're going to have that hunger signal just from all the fat cells in your body. And we're probably going to have to give you a medication to fix that problem. Um, and we're going to get to the medications pretty soon, but we're still talking about lifestyle stuff. I'm spending a lot of time on lifestyle because the thing is the lifestyle stuff, even if you're on the meds, you need to be doing lifestyle. And then once the meds have helped you lose the weight you're going to lose, if you want to get off those meds, you need to have the lifestyle in place, because now you're not getting the signals from the fat cells because they're gone, but you're still like susceptible. Like you gain that fat in the first place, remember? And you know if you have because you didn't have the healthy lifestyle stuff, right? So if you have the healthy lifestyle stuff and you're a healthy weight, you're probably not going to gain the weight back again. All right, so the food industry wants you to eat more because they will make more money if you do so, and so we're fighting an uphill battle on that one we can fight. What our institutions are doing, what the federal government is funding, how much education medical schools get, there's nothing that you can really do about that. We as a society can, but individually, not much you can do about that other than, maybe packing lunches, and just making better choices so that, even though the food might be cheaper that the federal government is subsidizing, you're just avoiding it. Um, Things like that. All right. So those are the barriers. We'll review those barriers again. Getting started, diet trends, cost, time, new foods, and the other ones. And, going back to kind of the diet trend one, like if you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to trust out there. Well, hey, I've just produced like 7 episodes on nutrition that you can enjoy and tell your patients about, tell your friends about, and re listen over and over yourself. Like, this is the best advice that I could possibly come up with. And if you're looking for good advice and what diet you should have, listen to those 7 episodes and listen to them over and over again. So that's another way to dispel it. Use the This Is Your Brain on Food section of the This Is Your Brain on Drugs episodes to educate yourself and your patients. All right. So, um, just to kind of wrap up, I've talked about the barriers. We're at the very end of talking about food. So I just wanted to give you um, one last list of my bottom line recommendations, as simple as possible. If you're trying to make changes with food, these are the things that are the most easy to do. Give up sugar. That should be like your number one priority, especially in drinks. Don't drink your calories. Reduce simple carb intake, which is mostly sugars, right? So give up sugar slowly, slowly get it out of there. If you need to use the artificial sweeteners to do that, you can do that, but you also need to get off of those at some point as well, because ultimately they don't really fix much. People tend to gain just as much weight, if not more, on those. But if you can use them, use them. I personally don't recommend it. I would just make things less and less sweet. All right, next, don't snack between meals. All right, enjoy the meals you have. Enjoy, I would eat 2 meals a day. This whole 3 meals a day thing is completely fabricated. It's another myth that they threw out there. They're just trying to get you to eat more and spend more money. Don't snack between meals. You don't need snacks. Um, Especially if you're trying to lose weight. I do have snacks between meals because I am trying to gain weight, trying to gain muscle mass, and my fat percentage is at 9%. So I can certainly stand to gain some weight. Um, so I'll have like nuts and dried fruit. I will have smoothies and things. But in general, if you're trying to lose weight, don't snack between meals, and then enjoy the meals you have. Like it, make a good, healthy, delicious meal and enjoy it. Next, give up ultra processed foods. Eat whole foods only, mostly plants. I think these ultra processed foods are probably at the root of most of our problems here. So work on getting rid of them. Figure out what they are by listening to my episodes, and then eliminate them. Next, intermittent fasting, time restricted eating. I would have a cutoff for when you eat. I would have a 10 to 12 hour eating window. Um, for me, that's like 1 o'clock in the afternoon until 11 p.m. That's my 10-hour eating window. Um, the recommendation is tend to have that earlier, but like I wake up later, I start my day later. And so for me, that's my circadian rhythm. Um, if I woke up at 7 o'clock in the morning, I would probably want to eat earlier than one. So, and I'd probably want to, if I went to bed earlier, I would probably want to stop eating earlier. But yeah, intermittent fasting. Next, mindful eating. So we've talked about mindful eating before. Be awareness of your have awareness of your hunger, and like do the mindfulness of like the textures and the sights and the smells, and go slowly, and use chopsticks, because people that use chopsticks eat less because they eat slower. So eat slower, and then having this awareness of your hunger. Eat until your hunger is satisfied as a 7 out of 10, and then stop. I think well, in Japan they have, I forget what the phrase is called, but it's called like, stomach 80% or something like that. And it's like basically eat until you're 80% full and then stop. They also have the phrase "kuidaure," which means eat until you fall down. So they've got both here. But I think it's like Hachi. What is it, like Hachi something? Hachibun. No, Hara Hachibun. I think it's Hara Hachibun. Hara is stomach, and Hachibun means like 80%. So they've got the phrase. And the Japanese are so thin. They are like the thinnest industrialized country in the world. They know what they're talking about, and it's like, look, you can still have your eat until you fall down time in Japan, when you go out on the weekends and eat all these fun snacks and things, and still do your 80% and still maintain a good weight. So like the Japanese love to eat. Like I think this is like the interesting thing. Like they love to eat. They eat a lot of processed rice. Like they eat what they want to eat, and they eat a lot. Actually, they actually eat kind of a lot. You might be surprised, but like in general, they're eating nutrient dense food, right? So like I think everyone talks about the Mediterranean diet, and I always say, what about the Japanese diet? The Japanese diet is kind of a Mediterranean diet. It's just not in the Mediterranean. But I think, when you look at the Mediterranean, you look at Japan, countries like this that like have really healthy diets, they do eat what they want. They do eat things that are delicious, things they enjoy. They don't generally like stop eating when they're, don't want to eat. They eat what they want to eat, and they're able to maintain it. So like I think a lot of this comes down to sugar. It comes down to ultra processed food. It comes down to snacking, things like that. And so, this advice I had was eat until you're like 7 out of 10 hunger, but the Japanese would say 80%. So yeah, stop eating before you're full. That's the other thing. Like I think in America, like, and the thing is, the ultra processed foods and just like forks and things like that, you can shovel food into your mouth, and you're like a 12 out of 10. You don't realize it, and then you have the stomach ache afterwards. You're like, oh, I ate too much. It's because you ate too fast. It takes like 20 to 30 minutes for your brain to get the signal that you're too full. So if you eat slowly and mindfully and to your like 70, 80% full and then stop, you actually will be full enough to not be so hungry that you like can't, that you need to eat more. And then and then you can get used to that. And then you're just eating less, right? Ultimately, all these techniques are kind of like about eating less. All right. And then the last bottom line recommendation: exercise, de-stress, get good sleep. So all that other stuff was about eating. Give up sugar, don't snack between meals, give up ultra processed foods, intermittent fasting, mindful eating, um, eat until you're 70, 80% full, and then get your exercise in. De-stress, like de-stress might mean exercise, could be de-stressing, it could be spending time with family and friends, it could be um, doing a hobby or something that you enjoy, it could be listening to music, could be reading a book, right? Like could be meditating. De-stress, and doom scrolling is not de-stressing. That actually makes things worse, so don't do that. And then getting good sleep, 7 to 9 hours of sleep, and making that a priority as well. And I think if you can do these things, these, what we got, one, two, three, four, five, six things, you're going to feel better. You're going to get metabolically healthier. And the other thing is be patient, right? Like I'm trying to gain strength in the gym, and I've heard it can take 5 to 10 years to get to the goal that you may have. And as a 47-year-old man, I may not be able to get to that goal anymore. Like the older you get, the harder it is to get the muscle growth that you're looking for. And so like I think setting your expectations, like when I look at that body scan today and I think, you know what? I lost 5 pounds of fat in the last year and I gained 2 pounds of muscle. That is incremental improvement. It's improvement. I'm stronger. I have more muscle. I have less fat. And it took a year to do it. And I'll keep doing what I'm doing, and hopefully I'll have some incremental improvement. May hopefully I don't think I really need to lose any more fat, but I could gain some more muscle. Or you don't even have to gain muscle mass, you can gain strength without gaining muscle mass. And so if I'm lifting a little bit heavier, even if it's like 5 to 10 pounds, like that's an improvement, right? Like not looking for those results overnight, because it takes time. Like we talked about how fast you should lose weight. It's not fast. It's like 1 pound every 1 to 2 weeks. Like you don't want to lose weight too fast. You don't want to make these changes too fast. You don't want to have the expectation too fast. And then you also want to have reasonable expectations. You know, for some people, that might be a BMI of 27. And if you can get down to 27 from 40, then wow, that's amazing. You may still be in the overweight range, but maybe you've got a lot of muscle in there, like that's good, right? You're no longer in the BMI level that like necessitates using a GLP-1. So like great job. You may not have the swimsuit body you were looking for, but like be satisfied with that and be happy with it. And so I think making these like very small incremental improvements and taking the time to do it is and just and waiting it out. Like, and the thing is, you're gonna plateau, but if you keep doing it, eventually you will go through the plateau. Eventually it will happen. Like I was like wondering, why am I not gaining more muscle? And I read this thing, it was like it takes 10 years. It takes 10 years to like get to the point that you're going to get to, and you have to keep the consistency, consistently doing the work that you're supposed to be putting in, not slacking off, not taking days off, not, of course you're taking days off, but not taking like days that you normally would have been in the gym off. You know, you're not stopping at the same weight, pushing, continuing to push yourself, and you will get there. And over time, you will have incremental improvements, and incremental improvements are good. We don't want to change overnight. So, you know, you don't have to work on everything at once. And so I think that's what I would recommend. And that actually brings us to the end of my whole nutrition piece of the lifestyle medicine. I'm going to talk about fitness in the next couple episodes, and I don't have as much material on that. I think fitness is actually, while often harder to do, the advice is much easier to give. And so I'm going to talk about a lot of studies that talk about how fitness helps with mental health and things like that. And then we'll like kind of go through some of the other lifestyle things briefly, like don't drink and things like that, and what how that can have an effect on you. And then we'll get started with meds. So I hope you enjoyed this nutritional series as much as I did, and I hope you'll re-listen to episodes. When you want to remind yourself, kind of like what I was talking about with whatever, that you'll want to re-listen to those and be like, hey, I need a reminder on like what he was talking about with like what foods are good for mental health. Have a listen to that episode again, because I think you you need the repetition to like make this stuff stick. All right. So I want to thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope to see you next time, and I will see you then.